I only got the acting role of a lifetime because my wife slept with the casting director. My name is Lucas Hayward, and I'm 38 years old, a theater actor from Chicago who spent more nights pouring drinks at a dimly lit bar than standing under stage lights. For years, I chased the dream audition after audition, rejection after rejection, hoping for that one role to change everything. I'd come home to our cramped apartment, shoulders slumped, and Miriam, my wife, would be there with a cup of coffee and a quiet, "Next time, Lucas. It's coming." She believed in me, or so I thought. And then, out of nowhere, it happened. I landed the lead in Othello at the Grand Lake Theater, the kind of role actors like me only dream about, a career-defining, life-altering break. I thought it was my talent, my persistence, finally paying off. I was wrong. I only got the acting role of a lifetime because my wife slept with the casting director. Let me back up. You need to know how this started, how it felt before the ground caved in. Picture this: I'm standing in the bar, wiping down a sticky counter, when my phone buzzes. It's a callback. Not just any callback, the callback. The Grand Lakes production of Othello, directed by some big shot from New York, with a casting director everyone in Chicago knows by name, Andrew Vale. I'd auditioned weeks earlier, poured my soul into it, but I'd heard nothing. I figured it was another miss. But there it was, an email: "Lucas Hayward, we'd like to see you again." My hands shook as I read it. I called Miriam right away, and she screamed through the phone, "I told you. I told you it'd happen." We laughed, we danced around our tiny living room, and for the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't just some guy pretending to be an actor. I felt like I'd made it. The next few weeks were a blur. Second audition, then a third. Each time, I walked into that theater with my heart pounding, reciting lines in my head, trying to channel every ounce of passion I had. I'd been doing this for over a decade: small roles, community gigs, the occasional commercial to pay the bills, but this was different. This was Shakespeare, the real deal, the kind of thing that could get me noticed. And then, the call came. I was in. I was Othello. I remember standing in the alley behind the bar, staring at my phone, the manager yelling at me to get back inside. I didn't care. I called Miriam again, and she actually cried, saying, "This is it, Lucas. This is your moment." I believed her. I believed it was mine. Rehearsal started, and I threw myself into it. The Grand Lake Theater is this old, gorgeous place: red velvet seats, chandeliers, the works. Walking onto that stage felt like stepping into someone else's life. The cast was incredible, the director intense but fair, and Andrew Vale, well, he was everything you'd expect. 50-something, sharp suit, sharper tongue, with this way of looking at you that made you feel like he'd already decided your worth. He'd lean back in his chair during readings, arms crossed, and nod like he was doing you a favor by being there. "Good choice, Hayward," he said once, after I finished a scene. "You've got something." I took it as a compliment. Why wouldn't I? I was too busy memorizing lines, too caught up in the high of finally being seen, to notice anything else. Miriam was there too, in her own way. She'd started working PR for the theater a few months back, after years of designing costumes got her nowhere. She'd come home with stories about press releases and gala events, her eyes lighting up when she talked about rubbing elbows with the city's arts crowd. I was proud of her. She'd always been the artistic one, the dreamer, even more than me sometimes. We'd met in a theater workshop 12 years ago. She was stitching a doublet, I was fumbling through Hamlet, and we'd been a team ever since. She'd stuck by me through every failed audition, every late shift at the bar. So when I got this role, it felt like our win. I'd catch her watching rehearsals sometimes, sitting in the back with a notebook, and I'd think, we're finally here. Together, But here's the thing, I'm telling you this as it happened, as I saw it then. I didn't know the truth yet. I didn't know that every good job from Andrew, every smile from Miriam, was hiding something I couldn't even imagine. I was too busy being grateful, too busy believing I'd earned this. Attention, interest, desire, action, that's what they say hooks you, right? Well, I was hooked. I wanted this so bad I didn't see the strings. Not until they started to pull. It started small. Little moments I brushed off. Andrew would say things during rehearsals, offhand remarks that stuck with me. Once, as I was leaving the stage, he called out, "You're lucky to have her in your corner, Hayward." I thought he meant Miriam's PR work, hyping me up to the press. I grinned and said, "Yeah, she's the best." He smirked, just for a second, and went back to his notes. I didn't think twice. Why would I? I was too focused on the role, on proving I belonged there. But those moments kept piling up, like crumbs I didn't know I'd have to follow later. Rehearsals are in full swing now, and I'm spending every waking hour either on that stage or behind the bar, pouring drinks to keep the lights on at home. Miriam's been my rock through all of this, or at least that's what I keep telling myself as I memorize lines and dodge the manager's complaints about my distracted shifts. But something's been nagging at me lately, something I can't quite pin down until it all comes crashing into focus one afternoon in a way that turns my stomach inside out. It's a Tuesday, and I'm at the theater early, running through a scene with Desdemona's understudy because the main actress called in sick. Andrew Vale's there, as always, sitting in the front row with his arms crossed and that look on his face like he's judging every breath I take. I'm midline, trying to get the rhythm of "It is the cause, my soul," when he interrupts me with a wave of his hand and says, "You're leaning too hard into the guilt, Hayward, ease up, she's not the only one who knows your secrets." I pause, thrown off, because it feels like he's talking about more than just the play, but I nod and start over, figuring he's just being cryptic to sound clever. Later, as I'm grabbing my jacket from the green room, he walks by and mutters, "You're a lucky man to have someone who fights for you," and there's this edge to his voice that makes me turn my head, but he's already gone. That comment sticks with me all day, replaying in my mind while I'm wiping down tables at the bar that night, and I start wondering why he keeps saying things like that, things that feel too personal, like he's got some private joke I'm not in on. I push it aside though, because I've got enough to focus on with the show opening in 3 weeks and Miriam texting me about some press event she's planning for the cast. She's been busier than ever with her PR gig, coming home late most nights with stories about schmoozing critics and theater donors, and I'm proud of her for carving out a space in this world that's chewed us both up so many times before. But then Wednesday happens, and everything shifts. I'm back at the theater, waiting for my cue during a costume fitting, when one of the assistants, a nervous kid named Tara, rushes over with a black leather planner in her hand and says, "Mr. Hayward, is this yours?" I found it under the rack, thought it might be important. I take it, confused, because I don't use a planner, my schedule's all in my phone, and I'm about to hand it back when I notice the initials MH embossed on the corner in tiny gold letters. Miriam's. I tell Tara, "No, it's my wife's, I'll give it to her," and she nods, scurrying off to deal with a torn hem. I flip it open, just curious, thinking I'll tease Miriam later about losing it, but what I see stops me cold. There's a page near the front, titled in her neat handwriting, "What I Gave Up for Him." Below it, a list, dates, initials, places. One entry jumps out, March 12th, AV, The Drake, 8 p.m. My callback for Othello was March 13th. I stare at it, my pulse picking up, because AV could be Andrew Vale, and the Drake's this fancy hotel downtown where Miriam said she'd been for a PR meeting that week. I flip back a few pages, and there's more, February 28th, AV, office, and March 5th, AV, bar. My hands start shaking as I piece it together, and I'm telling myself it's nothing, it's work stuff, but then I remember Andrew on the phone last week, his voice low as I passed by the sound booth, "You said he could act, and I gave him the part. That's your favor done." I'd pretended not to hear it then, but now it's roaring in my ears. I shove the planner into my bag and stumble through the rest of rehearsal, my lines coming out flat because all I can think about is Miriam and Andrew and what this means. That night, I take the stage for a run-through, and I'm supposed to be Othello raging against betrayal, but it's my own life I'm seeing. Every time Miriam smiled when I got the call, every time Andrew clapped me on the shoulder like we were pals. I finish the scene, and the director yells, "That's it, Lucas, that's the fire we need," but I'm not even there anymore. I'm collapsing inside, questioning every step that got me here, wondering if the only reason I'm standing on this stage is because my wife traded something she shouldn't have. I don't know what to do yet, but I know I can't unsee it, and that's when I realize I've got to find out the truth, no matter how much it tears me apart. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that my big break in Othello might not be mine at all, not in the way I thought, after finding Miriam's planner with those cryptic entries that point to something between her and Andrew Vale, the casting director who handed me this role. It's been 2 days since I saw that list, and I've been carrying it around in my bag like it's a live wire, waiting for the right moment to face her, because every time I look at her now, I see questions instead of the woman I've loved for 12 years. Tonight's the night, though. Rehearsal's done, the theater's emptying out, and I know she's still here, working late on some press thing, so I head to the costume room where I told her to meet me, my chest tight with a mix of dread and something sharper I can't name. The costume room's this quiet, cluttered space off the main hall, full of racks and mirrors that catch the dim light from a single bulb overhead, and when I walk in, Miriam's already there, flipping through a notebook with that focused look she gets when she's planning something big. She glances up, smiles, and says, "Hey, you were incredible out there tonight. People are going to talk about this show for years," but her voice sounds off, like she's trying too hard to keep it light. I don't smile back, I can't, and instead I pull the planner out of my bag, set it on the table between us, and say, "I found this. It's yours, right?" Her face changes, just for a second, before she recovers and nods, reaching for it with a casual, "Oh, thanks, I've been looking everywhere for that," but I don't let her take it yet, because I need answers more than I need peace right now. I open it to that page, what I gave up for him, and point at the list, my voice steady even though my hands aren't, and I ask, "What does this mean, Miriam?" March 12th, the Drake, day before my callback. What did you give up? She freezes, her hand halfway to the planner, and for a long moment, she just stares at me, her eyes flicking between mine like she's calculating how much I know. Then she pulls back, crosses her arms, and says, "Lucas, don't do this, you don't want to go down this road," but I step closer, the air between us thick with everything I've been holding in, and I say, "No, I do, because I heard Andrew on the phone last week, talking about a favor, and now I'm wondering if the only reason I'm here is because of you and him." Her face crumples, and she starts crying, not loud, not dramatic, just these quiet tears that make her look smaller than I've ever seen her, but she doesn't look away, and that's when I know it's true. I feel my voice rise as I say, "Tell me, Miriam, did you sleep with him? Did you trade that for this role?" And she flinches, but she doesn't deny it, just wipes her eyes and says, "I believed in you, Lucas." He didn't, not at first, so I made him see it. I take a step back, the words hitting me like a wall, because it's not an apology, it's a justification, and I yell, "You made him? What does that even mean? You think this makes it okay?" She shakes her head, her voice breaking as she says, "I was tired of watching you lose, tired of being invisible while you kept trying. I wanted us to win, and I knew you could do this if he just gave you the chance." I'm pacing now, the mirror's throwing my reflection back at me from every angle, and I can't stand how calm she sounds, like this was some noble sacrifice instead of a betrayal that's unraveling everything I thought we were. I stop, turn to her, and say, "You don't even regret it, do you? You're crying because I found out, not because you did it," and she looks up, her eyes hard now, and says, "I regret you seeing that planner, yeah, but I don't regret getting you here. You're on that stage because of me, Lucas, and you're better than anyone else out there." I laugh, this bitter sound I don't recognize, and say, "So I'm supposed to thank you? For lying to me? For making me feel like every line I say is a favor I didn't earn?" She stands up, steps toward me, and says, "You earned it every night since. You think Andrew would keep you if you couldn't deliver?" I just opened the door. I'm shaking my head, backing toward the door, because I can't listen to this anymore, her turning it into some twisted strategy instead of admitting what it really is, and I say, "You didn't open a door, Miriam, you broke us," before I turn and walk out, leaving her standing there in that silent room, because I need air, I need space, and I need to figure out what I'm going to do with this mess she's left me in. I barely slept, just sat on the couch in our apartment staring at the wall, replaying every moment of the past few weeks, every time she smiled at me while I talked about the role, every time Andrew nodded like he was doing me a favor. I'm due back at the theater in a few hours for another rehearsal, but all I can think about is how this isn't just about me anymore, it's about them, her and Andrew, and the way they turned my dream into something I can't even trust. I decide then, somewhere between the third cup of coffee and the sunrise, that I'm not going to let this sit quietly, I'm going to make them feel it too. I'm not the type to yell in public or throw things, never have been, so I sit down at my laptop instead, hands steady now that I've got a plan, and I start typing an email to this local arts podcast I've listened to for years, stage notes run by a guy named Pete who's got a knack for digging into theater gossip without crossing lines that get him sued. I keep it anonymous, just a tip from a concerned insider, and I write, "You might want to look into how the lead actor for Othello at Grand Lake got cast. Word is, it was a favor tied to the casting director, Andrew Vale, and someone close to the production, not talent alone." I don't name Miriam yet, but I know Pete's the type to sniff around, and I've heard whispers from other actors over the years, stories about Andrew pulling strings for people he liked, or who did something for him, so I figure there's more out there to find. I hit send, lean back, and wait, because I want this to unravel for both of them the way it's unraveling for me. The next few days at rehearsal are tense, but I keep my head down, running lines and hitting marks, because I'm not about to let this ruin what I can still do on that stage. Every scene I nail feels like proof I'm more than their deal. Then, a week later, I'm at the bar wiping down the counter when my phone buzzes with a notification from Stage Notes, new episode, titled Casting Shadows, What's Really Happening at Grand Lake? I plug in my earbuds and listen as Pete starts talking about credible tips and patterns of favoritism, and then he drops it, interviews with two actresses who worked with Andrew years ago, both saying he'd hinted at roles in exchange for personal favors, though they'd walked away. My tip's the spark, but they've built the fire, and by the end, Pete's asking, who's the mystery figure close to the production? We're still digging. I smile for the first time in days, because I know where this is going. It doesn't take long for the story to spread. By the next rehearsal, people are whispering in the halls, and Andrew's not in his usual seat, just an assistant taking notes while the director looks irritated. I overhear someone say the theater board called an emergency meeting, and later that day, there's an email to the cast, Andrew's stepping back for the rest of the run, officially retired early, though everyone knows it's not his choice. His name's all over the arts blogs now, his legacy tied to questions instead of triumphs, and I feel this quiet satisfaction knowing he's not walking away clean. But Miriam, she's the one I'm really watching for, because she's still showing up to work, still sending press emails like nothing's happened, until the whispers start reaching her too. I'm in the green room a few days later when Tara, the costume assistant, pulls me aside and says, "Lucas, is it true about Miriam? People are saying she's the one from the podcast, that she and Andrew." She stops, awkward, and I just nod, say, "Yeah, it's true, because there's no point hiding it now." Word's out, and by the end of the week, Miriam's not at rehearsals anymore, her PR contract's on hold, someone tells me, but I hear from a stagehand that no one's calling her back for gigs, that her name's too messy now. She wanted influence, wanted to be the one who made things happen, and I've taken that from her, not with a scene, not with a fight, but with a few words to the right person. She's sidelined, just like I was for years, and I don't feel bad about it, not yet, anyway. I'm walking home that night, hands in my pockets, when my phone pings with a text from her, a photo of a handwritten note, quoting Shakespeare, "All the world's a stage." Under it, she's written, "You learned how to play." I stop in the middle of the sidewalk, staring at it, because it's not an apology or a plea, it's her admitting she sees what I did, and maybe even respecting it. I don't reply, just keep walking, because this isn't over yet. Not until I figure out what I say to her face to face, but for now, I've hit her where it hurts most, and that's enough to keep me moving forward. The show's done here in Chicago, the reviews are calling me haunted and transformative, and I'm set to leave for New York next month, but I'm not thinking about that right now, because I just heard the door creak open behind me, and I turn to see Miriam slipping in, her coat pulled tight around her like she's trying to disappear. I haven't spoken to her since that night in the costume room, since I sent that tip and watched it all fall apart, and I'm not sure what I feel as she steps closer. Anger's still there, but it's quieter now, mixed with something heavier I've been carrying around. She looks different, less put together than I'm used to. Her hair's messy, her eyes darting like she's worried someone might see her here, and I realize she's not the same woman who stood in front of me weeks ago, defending what she did with Andrew like it was a gift. I set the script down on a folding chair and say, "What are you doing here, Miriam?" Because I don't know what else to start with, and she stops a few feet away, her voice low as she says, "I heard about Broadway, congratulations, Lucas, I mean it." I nod, waiting, because I can tell there's more, and after a pause, she adds, "I just wanted to see you before you go, to talk, if you'll let me." I don't say yes or no, just gesture to the chair across from me, and she sits, her hands twisting in her lap like she's nervous, which is new for her. I'm still standing, looking down at her, and I say, "You sent that note, you learned how to play, what was that supposed to mean? Because it's been nagging at me since I saw it," and she looks up, her face tired but steady, and says, "It means I underestimated you, I thought you'd break, or leave, but you turned it around, made it yours." I feel that old anger flare up, and I say, "You think this is a game? You and Andrew, you made me question everything, Miriam, every line I said, every clap I got," and she flinches, but she doesn't back down, saying, "I know. And I'm not here to say it was right, I'm here because I need you to know I didn't do it to hurt you, I did it because I couldn't stand watching you fade anymore." I laugh, sharp and loud, and say, "So you're the hero now? You ruined us because you cared too much?" She shakes her head, eyes wet but not spilling over, and says, "No, I ruined us because I was selfish. I wanted to matter, Lucas, not just be the wife who waits, and I thought if I got you this, it'd be enough for both of us." I sit down then, across from her, because my legs feel unsteady, and I'm starting to see it, how she'd been fading too, in her own way, stuck on the sidelines while I chased this dream we both had once. I say, you could have told me, we could have figured it out together, and she looks away, her voice soft as she says, I didn't think you'd listen, you were so focused, so sure it'd happen on your terms, and I was tired of waiting. I lean back, staring at the ceiling, because she's right, I was blind to her, too, in a different way, and that sits heavy on me now. I'm quiet for a minute, letting it sink in, and then I say, I knew before the premiere, I found the planner, heard Andrew, and I used it, Miriam every night on that stage, I pictured the audience finding out, and it made me better. She looks at me, surprised, and says, you knew? And you still, I cut her off, saying, yeah, I still performed, because I had to, I wasn't going to let you take that from me too. She nods, slow, like she's piecing it together, and says, that's why they're calling you unforgettable, because it was real. I don't answer, just look at her, and I realize I don't want her back, not the way we were, but I don't want to keep punishing her either, because I'm tired of carrying that weight around. I stand up, grab my script, and say, I'm going to New York, I don't know what's next for us, but I'm not deciding that here, and she stands too, her voice steady as she says, I'm not asking you to, I just needed you to see me, one last time, before you go. I nod, because I do see her now, not the wife I thought I had, but the person who broke us both trying to fix something she couldn't, and I say, take care, Miriam, before I walk out, leaving her in that empty room, because I've got a plane to catch and a stage waiting, and I'm ready to leave this behind. The Broadway run of Othello is gearing up, rehearsals start next week, and I'm still getting used to the idea that this is my life now, that I'm the guy critics are talking about, the one they're calling a late-blooming star with a performance that's raw and transformative. I've been thinking a lot about how I got here, not just the role or the move, but everything that came with it, Miriam, Andrew, the planner, the podcast, and what it's taught me about myself, about what I'm chasing and why. I'm alone here, no wife, no bar job, just me and the stage, and that feels right, even if it took losing everything to see it. I've had time to sit with it all, to turn it over in my head while I walk these unfamiliar streets or run lines in an empty room, and I keep coming back to how I didn't see Miriam slipping away, not because she hid it so well, but because I was too caught up in my own grind to notice she was drowning too. I spent years auditioning, pouring drinks, telling myself the next one would be it, and she was there, stitching costumes, then typing press releases, waiting for her own break that never came. I'm not saying what she did with Andrew was okay, it's not, and I'll never pretend it is, but I get it now, how she felt like the only way to matter was to pull a string I couldn't reach. I learned that loyalty isn't just sticking around, it's seeing the other person, really seeing them, and I didn't, not until it was too late. The revenge part, tipping off that podcast, wasn't just about hurting her or Andrew, it was about taking back what they tried to define for me, about proving I could stand on that stage without their shadows over me. I think about Andrew sometimes, how he's out of the game now, his name tied to whispers instead of awards, and I don't feel sorry for him, he knew what he was doing, knew I was married, and went along with it anyway. Miriam's a different story, she's back in Chicago, from what I hear, picking up freelance work where she can, but the theater world's moved on, and I know that cuts her deeper than anything I could have said. I don't talk to her, don't check in, because we're done, not in some dramatic way, just finished, and I'm okay with that, I've got my own path now, and it's not tied to her anymore. I'm different too, I can feel it when I rehearse, when I step into Othello's shoes and let that pain come through, because it's not just acting now, it's something I've lived. I used to perform for approval, for the nod from a director or the applause at the end, but that's gone, I'm up there for the truth of it, for what I can pull out of myself that no one else can fake. The betrayal didn't just break me, it gave me something real to work with, something that makes people lean forward in their seats, and I'm not afraid of it anymore. I think about what I said to Miriam, how I knew before the premiere and used it, and that's the key, I took what they did and made it mine, turned it into a performance they can't touch, and that's what's carrying me forward. I'm sipping coffee at a tiny table by the window, watching people rush by outside, and I realize this is what's next, New York, the stage, a life I'm building on my own terms. I don't know if I'll stay alone forever, don't know if I'll ever trust someone the way I trusted her, but I'm not worried about that yet, I've got lines to learn, a show to open, and a chance to keep proving I belong here. The story's not over, not by a long shot, but it's mine now, and I'm telling it every night under those lights. I think about how it ended back there, me walking out of that rehearsal room, her standing alone, and I know it's not about winning or losing anymore, it's about what I do with what's left, and I'm doing it for me, because sometimes the hardest thing you learn is that the mask isn't what breaks, it's what you make it, and they believe every word.